difficulties. Today is Friday, September 13th, and we're here to talk about the bar exam and the resources that are available to the class of 2025. I want to be really clear that everything that I'm talking about applies to TMSL students who are graduating in December of 24, just a couple months from now, or May of 25. If you are graduating after that, we don't know that these resources that I'm going to talk about are going to apply to any class graduating, anyone graduating after May of 2025. So if you are graduating later than that, know that this may not apply to you, and this is not a promise that this will apply in the future. But for everybody who is graduating in December or upcoming May, there are some really good resources that you should know about, because it will help you, I think it'll help you better prepare for bar prep if you know what's coming down the road. So we're going to cover a couple of things today. First, an overview of the uniform bar exam. I know a lot of people tend to know what's on the bar exam, tend to know the structure of the bar exam, but I also know that historically we find there are people who don't. So we're going to do a quick coverage of that, a discussion of each of the component tests, and then you may have heard something about the next gen bar exam and maybe wondering what that is. Do you get to pick? Does that apply to you? The answer is it doesn't, but we're going to talk briefly about it just so you can put it out of your mind and know it's one less thing for you to worry about. And then the bulk of the time is going to be spent on this item for the resources available for your class. But first, just briefly, so you know who I am. I teach the MPT class here, and I've taught it for a number of semesters. And one time I had a student where I taught like the whole semester. And at the end, she's like, "Oh, you never told us you were a lawyer." And I'm like, "I don't think they let you teach law school classes if you're not a lawyer." So I like to start with a little introduction. And if you're in an MPT class, you've already seen this, but just briefly, I grew up in Las Vegas. My dad was born and raised in Mexico. He emigrated illegally when he was 15 with 50 bucks in his pocket, didn't speak a lick of English. He taught himself English from watching Sesame Street. Neither of my parents graduated high school, although my mom eventually did. I went to Rice University for undergraduate. I worked at a think tank and then a law firm, and I was doing research for the attorneys in the library. And the attorney lounge was right next door to the library, and every day I'd see the little girls in their little heels on the tile floor into this attorney lounge that I was not allowed into. And I was like, if there's an attorney lounge, I've got to be allowed into it. But I've never worked at the kind of firm, unfortunately, that has an attorney lounge. So I went to law school. I started in fall of 2002, and that put me on track to graduate in May of 2005. But then that's me in March of 2005. So spring break of my 3L year. And then there's me a couple of weeks later. I was really hurting. And you can see in that picture, like that's not easy, not easy work. So I had twins on spring break of my 3L year. But I did go on to graduate on time. And there's just a picture of me and my kids in November of 2022. I always wanted to take my kids to Europe before my boys left me and went away to college. So that's Thanksgiving of their senior year of high school. And now, interestingly enough, they are sophomores at Arizona State, where I went to law school. So I graduated in May. I took and passed the July bar exam, but you don't get your results in the quarter, right? And so in September of that year, after I took the bar exam, but before the results, I was married and getting paid off. And so then that weekend we made a decision to move to a different state out of Arizona. So I had to take the exam and with 10-month-old twins, 11-month-old twins. I passed that bar exam in Illinois. And so when I tell you to trust Barbary, it comes both from a very personal place, because Barbary got me to pass a bar exam twice when I had no business passing a bar exam. I mean, if you look, the odds were stacked against me, right? Like there's no reason I should have passed, but I did. So it comes from a very personal place, aside from my current professional expertise, which all the research and information out there shows that it really is the best way to get from graduation to bar passage. So I come at it from two different directions. I was a litigator for 7 years, and then I moved into higher education. I worked at Rice for 5 years. I've been at TMSL for nearly 6. And so that's who I am. And I say all that. I hope you know that I'm a resource. If ever you have any questions,
Yeah.
bar prep, you want to talk about MPT, you want to talk about anything law school or passing the bar exam, here and available. You will probably want to take notes today, so maybe have, you know, a laptop or pen and paper handy, but also don't get frustrated or overwhelmed because there's going to be a lot of information coming at you. You don't need to memorize all of this. You don't need to be in a position to go give this same presentation to somebody else. It's just kind of a preview. Always think of it like if you go to a restaurant and you're trying to select what you want on the menu, you need to be able to read, you know, whether that sandwich has tomatoes on it or not, because you need to know whether you want those tomatoes. So you need to have a general idea. That doesn't mean you need to be prepared to go into the kitchen and cook everything, right? So you need to have kind of a general idea of what's on offer, what's going to be available to you. Doesn't mean that you have to be prepared to educate someone as fully as so you won't.
Excuse me,
know this
Professor.
today.
Excuse
We're
me,
going to
Professor. I'm so sorry. Can you hear me?
tempted to turn off emails from me. Please read emails if you get them from me, reminding you about upcoming events, information opportunities. So throughout your 3-hour year, you'll get a lot of emails from me. And this is just to give you an overview. Today, we're giving an overview of what to expect. So when we talk about an overview of the uniform bar exam, there are some common misconceptions. I think people, for instance, sometimes people think that passing the uniform bar exam is the equivalent of licensure to practice in any state, and it is not. It is a portable score. So every jurisdiction has different requirements that you have to meet in order to be licensed there. So passing the bar exam is just one of them. For most states, you have to graduate from law school. You have to pay a fee. You have to sign documents and be sworn in. You have to keep up with continuing CLE or entering CLE requirements. And passing the bar exam is an important, well, yes. Sure. Yeah? Isn't that what I did? Oh, I thought that's what I did. Sorry about that. All right, thank you. Very good. Okay, so getting a passing UBE score, it meets the bar exam score requirement, but it doesn't just, it's not just blanket licensure. So you still have to apply to be licensed. You still have to pay the fees. And different jurisdictions have different cut scores. And so I think New Mexico is like 260, but in Texas it's 270. So if you go, for instance, and you sit for a bar exam in New Mexico and you get a 266, you are then eligible to be licensed based on that bar exam score in New Mexico, but you cannot then transfer a 266 to be licensed in a state that requires you to have 270. But is everyone here going to be sitting in Texas? Yeah, yeah. Okay, so just get 270 or above, and I'll tell you what, just aim for 290, and you'll be great. Oh, here are the cut scores. So you can see different states have different licensure requirements. Occasionally someone will sit in Texas and they will not meet the 270 threshold. Texas is in that bottom category of 270. Maybe they score, like I said, let's say 266. And for a person who does that, they can consider taking that 266 and transferring it to any of the other states and applying for licensure in one of those 266 states. Or lower, 260 to 266. And if you ever think you want to do that, if you find yourself in a position of wanting to transfer your score and be licensed somewhere else, I encourage you to come have a conversation with myself or anyone else in the Office of Academic Success, we can help talk you through that. Professor Dai, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Texas didn't say, yep, that's fine. I took score that good stat or stat jurisdiction that has a board that's score.
So I have never heard that second thing that you just described. I understand it to be a portable score. So as long as you meet the requirements for licensure and you, including passing the cut score of your desired jurisdiction, I understand you can apply for licensure there. Is that your, all right, the way you phrased the question made me think maybe I misunderstood. So I just want to make sure. Yeah, but if you're thinking about doing anything other than sitting in Texas to be licensed in Texas, it's worth making an appointment, coming, have a conversation. There's lots of various permutations here, but if you're doing anything other than kind of the standard sit in Texas, get a license in Texas, come talk to one of us. So the uniform bar exam, what is it good for? What is it not? We already covered this. Sorry about that. But it's not automatic licensure. You have to meet all the other requirements. You earn a portable score that can be transferred to other jurisdiction, and you should make sure you know what you're doing and contact the jurisdiction where you want to be licensed to find out all the requirements for admission. This kind of topic area is something that gets discussed a lot around students. And so like a kind of lore or a kind of ideas that are not really based in fact arise. So for instance, as you all are probably aware, Texas allows you under very certain limited circumstances to take the bar exam before you have actually received your JD. You have to be within so many credits. And students know that and learn that in large part from having conversations with other students. But it is a very limited exception and you have to be within so many credits. So one year, TMSL had like 6 different students who thought they were going to be taking the February bar exam early. And none of those students were aware of the actual limitations of that little exception and were devastated when they found out, in fact, they were not eligible to sit, and they found out very last minute, and it was a whole problem. So just with licensure, with these sorts of requirements, make sure you're really in tune with what the actual rules are. These are the policies set by jurisdiction, teeny tiny, so we won't go in that, especially since you all say you're taking in Texas. But each jurisdiction, for instance, decides whether someone can be granted ADA accommodations. Each jurisdiction grades the essays and the MPT, and they set their own grade release dates and requirements. If you want to learn more, and I hope you do, I encourage you to go to your friendly neighborhood internet browser and type in NCBE if you haven't already done this. Spend some time on the NCBE website. NCBE is the organization that writes the bar exam, and Google around poke around the UBE link on the NCBE. There's a lot of information on there. For instance, the test instructions, like the instructions for the MBE, the multiple choice, and for the essays and the MPT are on there. And if it were me, if I were taking a bar exam, I would definitely want to read those ahead of time. You will certainly read them again on the morning of the bar exam, but just being prepared always helps set my mind at ease. As you know, the bar exam is offered twice a year. It's the last Tuesday and Wednesday of February and the last Tuesday and Wednesday of July. I have always recommended that unless you have some extraordinary circumstances, you plan to graduate in May and take the bar exam in July. I know at TMSL more and more we are moving away from this. But if you are planning to do anything unconventional, for instance, if you are graduating in May but planning to take the bar exam early, I know this is coming up more and more commonly now. If you're planning to do that, I also know that a lot of people want to keep it hush-hush, like they don't want people to find out that they've taken a bar exam early. That is exactly the wrong approach. I mean, you don't have to advertise it to your classmates, but come see us. Come see us in the Office of Academic Success. Let us help you. Let us support you. Let us give you tips for how to navigate navigate that situation. But understand that if you do that, if a person chooses to take the bar exam before they graduate, for the most part, you are voluntarily putting yourself in a category that statistically doesn't perform as well as other categories of bar taker. That doesn't mean if you pass the bar exam on your first try, you pass 100% of the time. So it is not making a judgment on the expectations on you. All I'm saying is if you find yourself moving into that situation, come talk to us and let us help you make the best of the situation you're going to be in. But there are a lot of permutations, so reach out to talk one-on-one. All right, so now let's talk about the component tests, MPT, MEE, MBE. As 3Ls, you all probably know all of this, but so I'll go fast through this part because what I really want to talk about is the resources. And of course, we got started 20 minutes late because of tech issues. So Tuesday morning of the bar exam, remember it's Tuesday and Wednesday, the first test that you're going to encounter is the MPT, Tuesday morning. You get 2 MPTs. It is designed, the MPT is designed to test your ability to use fundamental lawyering skills in a realistic situation and complete a task that a beginning lawyer should be able to accomplish. It is not a test of substantive knowledge. Rather, it is designed to evaluate certain fundamental skills. And so I always advise, MPTs are set in the fictional jurisdiction of Franklin. Like it's just a made up state called Franklin, right? So I always advise people, imagine that you are being called upon as a Texas lawyer to practice law in Franklin. So you have to bring with you your certain knowledge and understanding of certain fundamental legal concepts, enough that you can analyze the law that you're given, but you have to understand that the law of Franklin is its own specific thing and is going to be different than the law of Texas. So for instance, if you get an issue that deals with negligence. Well, we all know that negligence is duty, breach, causation, and damages, right? But the specifics of how it's applied in any one jurisdiction, you will need to go into the MPT library and read the cases and the law that they provide you there. So each MPT packet is about 18 to 20 pages, and there's a section of case facts where you get your client facts, whatever the situation entails. There might be a transcript of a client interview, there might be deposition transcripts, there might be receipts or emails or whatever documents the client might have brought to you. And then there's also a section of law, and it will usually have 2 or 3 cases, or maybe a statute in 2 cases, or maybe a rule of professional responsibility and a statute in some cases. There will be some combination of 2 or 3, maybe 4 pieces of law or authority in the library. And you will be tasked, you'll be told what to do. You will be tasked to produce a written document that a beginning lawyer should be able to produce, and you have 90 minutes to do this. So you get 1 MPT, well, they give you 2 MPTs and 3 hours, with the idea being that you will do 90 minutes on each one. Most commonly, you will get a memo. You will be assigned to write a memo, a brief, a client letter, or a demand letter. The memo is the most common. And you should take the MPT class with Dean Harrison and myself, because we will prepare you for all of those. And if you want to know precisely what skills they think they're testing, you can find this document. This is from the NCBE website. Remember, I said go to the NCBE website, navigate to where it says UBE, and then navigate to the MPT part. And it's a single-page document that lists out the 6 skills that they're testing and the sub-skills that they want to assess. This is another way. If you want to go to it directly, you can search NCBE MPT preparation. And of course, we teach Dean Harrison and I teach the MPT class. It's 2 credits. I'm sorry, it's a big class. Is anyone in MPT class right now? Yeah, okay, all right. So I'll give you this, you all have heard this already, but you will work in this class. Every semester we have people surprised and perhaps a bit disgruntled about the fact that there's like homework assignments in a law school class. I got to turn stuff in, but it helps. There are skills exercises. We assign about 12 homework assignments throughout the course of the semester, which breaks down to a little fewer than 1 per week. It is excellent preparation for the bar exam, but don't say I didn't warn you. I mean, it is work, but it's not excruciating or anything. I strongly recommend it for anyone planning to take a bar exam with a uniform, with an MPT on it. All right, so that's Tuesday morning, 3 hours, 2 MPTs. You take a lunch break, you're at the bar exam, you take a lunch break, and you come back. And then you have the essay exam, the MEE, 6 essays, 3 hours, 30% total of your bar exam score, Tuesday afternoon. The essays can be drawn from any of 11 different subjects, and they're listed out here. And what you will see is that not the majority, but a huge chunk of those 11 are 1L subjects. So if you are not taking the bar exam, if you're taking the bar exam in July and you have some time between now and then, you're wondering what can you be doing to prepare yourself. One thing you might be doing is go back through your 1L materials, or you can get into your Barbary account and go back into the used to be called 1L Mastery. I believe this year they're calling it 1L Success, but the Barbary 1L Mastery, 1L Success programming, and you can be doing some refreshers on this. And if you want to know in detail the MEE subject matter outline, this is also available on the NCBE website. This document, this is just showing a screenshot of the first page, but this document is about 12 pages long. It breaks down the universe of all testable subjects and then all the testable subtopics. And this is a really good thing to have and just be aware of. These are the things that you could potentially be tested on. This is just business associations, but again, it's a 12-page document when you get the whole thing. It's called the subject matter outline. You can also find the instructions for taking the MEE because this is not a Texas law essay. These are, you might be wondering what law applies. So I've highlighted on the screen, but read this for yourself. You can find all of this on the NCBE website. This is teeny tiny, way too small for you to see, but you can find it yourself by searching in the black bar at the bottom, JD Advising MEE subject frequency. But this shows what essays were tested when, so you can see which ones are most commonly tested. This is not a lot of legwork you need to do on your own, though, because Barbary will tell you, you all are going to get a Barbary course. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And Barbary will tell you what is the most heavily tested topics. But if you like to see it visually, you can search for this document. If you want to find it, you can search MEE frequency chart, and it's usually the first one that comes up is the one from JD Advising. And additionally, you can take bar essay writing with our illustrious Professor Dye. It is a graded course. It is 2 credit hours. It is not pass fail. I don't know for certain, but I would also guess that Professor Dye makes you work. It is both subject review and essay writing strategy. So really good things to take your 3L year. You get school credit for it, and you are lengthening the runway, as Barbary is fond of saying. You are lengthening the time that you have to prepare for the bar exam. So that's the first day of the bar exam. So you go in the morning, you write your 2 MPTs for 3 hours, you take a lunch break, you go back, you write 6 essays drawn from 12 potential topics or 11 potential topics. You don't know what they're going to be. And then you go home for the night, or you go back to your hotel. You hopefully sleep very well. You come back Wednesday morning for the MBE, the multiple choice. And this is likely the part of the bar exam that people are most familiar with. It is 100 questions in the morning in 3 hours. You take a lunch break, and then 100 questions in the afternoon. And the MBE collectively, all 200 questions, is worth 50% total of your bar exam score. So what is tested on the MBE is your 1L subjects plus con law and evidence. So these 7, so the 1L classes plus con law and evidence. If you want the MBE subject matter outline, it is also available on the NCBE website, same as the other 2. And you can just search Google, or you can go to the NCBE website and navigate to it. But NCBE MBE subject matter outline. And the one for the essays was NCBE MEE subject matter outline. For the MBE, for the multiple choice, the subject matter outline is a bit shorter because there's less topics. It's closer to 6 or 7 pages. And we also, as you know, have our elective courses. This one is taught by Professor Hopkins, ABR, Advanced Bar Review, ABR. But it is designed and supported by Barbary. So you will learn in this class while earning TMSL credit towards graduation. You will learn in this class the Barbary strategies and approach to the MBE questions. And you do this, if you do it while you're in law school before you take the bar exam, you do all of this before you actually begin your bar prep with your Barbary course. And so it really lays a strong foundation to prepare you so that, in some ways, a lot of the heavy lifting is done by the time you get to bar prep. There's still going to be a lot of work, but at least you will feel like you have a solid grounding in it by the time you start your bar prep. So the ABR course covers critical reading, rule mastery, advanced legal reasoning, critical thinking, systematic problem solving, and it models the active reading that they're going to teach you that Barbary wants you to learn for your Barbary course. So just to recap, if you are not already, I strongly recommend that you take all of these courses before you graduate. These 3 courses prepare you for the 3 component tests of the bar exam. Might be a little sensitive because we do get complaints that these courses are hard work, but of course they're hard work. The bar exam is hard work. So you do the hard work now to make the bar exam a little easier. For example, in MPT class, you do have to do significant work outside of class, but it's all to prepare you. It's all to prepare you so that the bar prep period and then ultimately the bar exam just feels super easy. Briefly, I want to talk about item 3 and then on to the really good stuff, which is item 4. So the next gen bar exam, what does it mean for the class of 2025? Last year, this was all the rage. Everybody was wondering, what's the next gen bar exam? Am I going to have to take the next gen bar exam? You all might have gotten to the point where you know more about it, so you're not worried about this, but I do want to say it's got nothing to do with you all. Texas, I think, is on the cusp of, if they have not formally, they will soon adopt the next gen bar exam, and it will first be offered in Texas in July of 2028. So for you all sitting here, nothing you need to worry about. You're going to take the UBE, the bar exam I just described. So I'm not going to talk about this. All right. Good stuff. The resources. This is what you're here for, I hope. All right. So just real basics. Everyone in this room, assuming you meet the criteria we talked about at the beginning, will get a free Barbary bar review course. It is included. It is purchased by TMSL for you. It is commonly called the PSP, which stands for Personal Study Plan. What that means, the reason it's personal is that the timing and the pacing has a lot of options for personalization. Everybody's course in Texas is about 380 hours of work, and all these assignments are available online, self-paced, on demand. What makes it personal is you get to pick your calendar and pick what days you're going to have off, what days you're going to work. And so for the whole bar prep period, basically from graduation until the day before the bar exam, you can go into your online calendar and tell Barbary what days you plan to take off. Maybe you want to take every Sunday off because that is your sacred family day, and Sundays, you have to take every Sunday off. And then you know that you're going to have to take Tuesday the 17th off because it is your child's birthday and you're going to the zoo, or whatever the case might be, right? So you tell Barbary which days you're going to take off in your calendar, and then it takes that 380 hours and it divides it evenly across all the other days that are left. The days that are not off days are work days, and Barbary is going to assign you work on all of those days. This is important, and the significance of it will become clear when you get in there, but hear this now. You cannot set half days in your Barbary course. So let's say if you are graduating in December and taking the February bar exam, when you set your start date for your Barbary course, set the start date for the day after graduation. even if you plan to be working in your Barbary course before graduation, set the start date for the day after graduation. You can always work in your course before your designated start date, but if you tell it that your start date is November 1, and we'll talk about when the course opens in a minute, but if you tell it that your start date is November 1, it's going to divide those 380 hours evenly across every day. And while you're still a student in November, you probably don't have as much time to study for the bar exam because you're going to be doing classwork as you will once you graduate. So set your start date for the day after graduation. And we can talk one-on-one about what that means, but let's keep going because it'll become clear in a minute. For July bar takers, your PSP, and that's what when we think of I got a Barbary course, that's what we're talking about, your PSP. For July bar takers, your PSP will open in mid-March. They don't give us a specific date, so I could say March 15th, but just it's mid-March. It might be the 14th, it might be the 17th, mid-March. And that is a month earlier than it has ever done before. And then similarly for February takers, your PSP will open mid-October. That's a month earlier than ever before. It used to be mid-November and mid-April. They're opening it up a month earlier. That's huge. That gives you time. So if you can only commit 8 hours a week right now while you're in school, maybe you do a couple hours on weekdays and 4 hours on Saturday or something, you can start chipping away at that 380-hour total now. And importantly, you need to aim to get to 100% completion of your PSP. I know this is approximately 400 hours. For different jurisdictions, it's more or less, but I think for Texas, it's about 380. So you should aim to get all of those assignments done. But your PSP learns from you. They have an algorithm called Isaac. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but basically, Barbary has, using all the data from the hundreds of thousands of bar takers that have taken Barbary in the past, Barbary has taken each of the assignments in your PSP and it has assigned what they call it, I think, a correlation score. How closely is any one assignment, how closely is this corporation's essay correlated with bar exam passage? So every single assignment, they have determined how closely correlated with bar passage that assignment is. And so every assignment in the Barbary course is important, but not everything can be the most important, right? It's like when you highlight in a book, you highlight everything, not highlighting anything. So if a bar exam studier falls behind, Barbary will drop certain assignments out of your to-do list. Don't worry, you can always go back and get them. It's not like they're gone forever, but Barbary will give you a personalized to-do list every single day. And if you are always up to date, on time, and never fall behind, your course will look identical to everybody else who is up to date and never falls behind. The reality is, at some point or another, a lot of people do fall behind. And if you fall behind, your PSP is learning from you and learning from the millions of other data points it has and making sure that wherever you are in the course, you are always getting the assignment that for you maximizes your chances of bar exam passage. So when you're in your PSP, every day you will wake up, you'll log in, and it will give you, Lisa's daily recommendations. Your only job for studying for the bar exam is to work through your daily recommendations every day. And for most people, depending on how many off days you set, it's going to be between 6 and 7 hours of work. And you have permission from me at the end of your 6 or 7 hours, and you need to ask yourself and be really brutally honest, did I learn what Barbary expected me to learn today? Not could I take the bar exam tomorrow and be ready, but did I learn what I was expected to learn today? Do I feel like I'm on the right track? And if you can answer yes to those questions, you have my permission at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. whenever you finish your hours to close your laptop and be done for the day. Reasonable minds can differ. You will get different advice from different people. Some people will also tell you, in addition to your daily Barbary recommendations, you need to do so many essays per day and so many MPTs per week and so many MBE questions per day. And again, reasonable minds can differ. They're not wrong. I'm not right. I'm just here to tell you that the Barbary research shows that if you do your PSP, your Barbary program, and you do it with fidelity, there really isn't a lot more you need to do. And at a certain point, working on your bar prep 10, 12, 14 hours a day, not only does it have diminishing returns, it actually can be detrimental because your brain needs breaks and rest to really process and lay down in a deep kind of way the information that you have learned during the day. If you are running, doing practice questions in all your free time, you're really not going to have time to rest and process and do the deep learning that you need to do. This is kind of what we've talked about. Isaac is based on the millions of data points, and it's constantly recalculating what is the most effective assignment for you. Your PSP looks identical for everyone, but it starts to change as different people get ahead or fall behind because assignments will be dropped off. And again, Barbary has everything you need during bar prep. You don't need additional resources. So a lot of times people will specifically have questions about Adaptabar. And the best advice I have heard is that nobody needs to buy Adaptabar at the beginning. Maybe when you get to the midway point through your course, for example, after you complete the simulated MBE, which is part of your PSP, depending on what you learn about your performance on the simulated MBE, you may choose to purchase Adaptabar. But for the first 6 weeks or so of your bar prep course, I would urge you to put all of your bar prep effort, energy, and time into your PSP. Okay, so here is a screenshot similar to what you'll see. This is older, and I think they've updated it, but you can see everything on 7 hours and 15 minutes of work. It's not fun work. You might rather be at the movies or golfing or whatever else you might rather be doing, but it's not unmanageable. It's not this horrible beast of a day. Anybody can get through 7.5 hours of bar prep, even 5 days a week, even for the 10 or 12 weeks of the bar prep period. People want to get excited and just high stress about bar prep. And it is a very high stakes exam. But my recommendation for you is just to wake up every day. Every day is a new day. Get through your daily recommendations and take a break. And that's really just kind of slow and steady. Think of the tortoise and the hare. Slow and steady wins the race. So that little circle highlights where you can toggle between daily recommendations, which is highlighted there, or right next to it, you can choose entire course if you want to see all the assignments that are coming up. So as soon as your PSP opens, so that will be October 15th if you're sitting for a February bar exam, or March 15th if you are sitting for a July bar exam. As soon as your PSP opens, up in the top corner, well, it's sort of in the middle, but see where so My Barbary Connect. So as soon as the PSP opens, go in there. There's a couple of things you need to do in that section, the My Barbary Connect. First of all, there will be a series of webinars to sign up for. And that's where the Barbary experts describe for you how to use your Barbary course. So I strongly recommend that you sign up for all of those webinars. Now, usually it is a series of 4 webinars, and each of the 4 is offered in 3 different sessions. So you don't need to sign up for all 12, right? Just pick one session that works for you for each of the 4 webinars. So that's in My Barbary Connect. The other thing that is in My Barbary Connect is the small study groups. And it's not study groups like you all get together and quiz each other on contracts, flashcards, or anything like that. But it is a Barbary professional bar prep coach. Each group is limited to, I think, 10 to 15 members. The meetings are not recorded. And it's not just TMSL folks, it's across the country. And it's just an opportunity for you to ask a bar coach whatever questions are on your mind for where you are right now. Those are really valuable. I've heard really good feedback on those. Register for all the webinars in My Barbary Connect. These are really excellent. One of the things we hear from people is that a 2-hour Barbary lecture is taking them 4 or 5 or 6 hours to get through, because that, this is a very common complaint, because the individual is wanting to take too many notes or almost trying to transcribe the lecture. So they're pausing, rewinding. One of the topics that is addressed in these webinars is how not to fall into that trap and why you don't need to fall into that trap. I mean, it's not details I need to go into here, but register for those webinars. Both of these items are in My Barbary Connect. And then do your daily recommendations every day. There is also an MCQ bank, so a bank of multiple choice questions online in your PSP that you have access to. I strongly urge you to stay out of that MCQ bank. That would be if you wanted to do extra practice, but stay out of that until after you've completed the simulated MBE. For the same reason I said you don't need to buy a Adaptabar right now, stay out of the MCQ bank. If you trust Barbary and do the assignments it tells you to do, when it tells you to do them, it is designed to get you to be at the right place, to peak at the right time. Now, about 6 weeks into your course, you will complete a simulated MBE as part of your Barbary assignments. The way Barbary is set up is the MBE subjects are all covered first, and once they're completed, then you do a simulated MBE, and then after that, they do the ME only topics. So 6 weeks in, give or take, you will complete your MBE subjects in Barbary. And then you take the simulated MBE, that will give you a good idea of where you are right then. And then you can reassess and reevaluate if you need to incorporate additional resources. The one thing I want to say about that too is I said about 6 weeks in, you will complete your MBE subjects. That doesn't mean that that's it, like they're never going to touch contracts again. Absolutely not. Barbary keeps coming back and keeps reincorporating and revisiting so that you are fresh and ready on all the subjects on the day of the bar exam. But the bulk of the lectures and work in those subjects will be completed about 6 weeks in. So as soon as your PSP opens up, you go into the My Barbary Connect. So this is one we haven't talked about yet, and this is a big one because it's opening up very soon. So the PSP, that's the 380 hours of work. It opens October 15th if you are taking the February bar exam. But the Barbary Early Start is 24 hours of on-demand programming, and that opens for everyone, regardless of whether you're taking February or July. This opens for everyone mid-September. So that's coming right up. And that's why, thanks to everyone who helped coordinate the date for this event, but that's why I really wanted to have this right away, because your early start program is going to open up really soon, probably next week. It's 25 hours of lectures, exercises. I think there's some practice questions, some practice essays incorporated in there. Everyone should start working your way through this now. In particular, if you are taking the February bar exam, start working your way through the early start programming as soon as it opens up. And the way you find, I don't know if you know where to go to find this, but you find this in your, the same place where you would go for your 1L mastery and your 2L, 3L mastery. When you get up there, there will be a little drop down, choose Barbary Early Start. Start on the early start and start working your way through it. But for February bar takers, once your PSP opens up, if you have not completed your early start by the time your PSP opens up, drop it like it's hot and move on to your PSP. The early start is nice if you can get it done. The PSP is everything. So if you haven't completed early start by the time your PSP opens up, just drop that early start and move on to the PSP. Another Barbary resource that you get is the Barbary baseline assessment. That will probably open at the same time as the early start. A lot of people skip this baseline assessment because they're like, oh, I'm not ready. I don't want to know what my score is. It's not going to be good. That's the whole purpose of a baseline. Like, that's the whole purpose. Just be bold, be brave, take it, see what you know, see what you don't know. It's a really good place to start because you will then be able to use this baseline assessment to compare to your simulated MBE, which happens in 6 or 7 weeks after your program starts. And it will really show you the progress that you've made. So taking the baseline assessment right now might not feel great, but down the road, when you're able to compare it to the progress that you've made from doing the PSP, you're going to be very grateful that you did it. The baseline assessment is 70 MBE style questions. You take it online, you take it in your Barbary account. They recommend, if you can, to sit down and take it all in one sitting, but I don't even think you have to do it. Like if you can only find the time to do 30 questions today, 20 questions tomorrow, and another 20 the next day, just go ahead and do it like that. So you can complete this. This note says complete it after you complete your early start. Actually, it's fine if you want to complete it even before you do your early start. But the other thing, the other bonus is you get a customized score report showing your strengths and weaknesses. And then again, down the road, you'll be able to compare where you started to how far you have come. Last month, I sent out an email asking everyone to respond to a short Google survey. If you haven't already done that, please go ahead and do it. If you have already done it, please don't go back and do it again unless something has changed. And actually, if something has changed, just email me and I'll change it. But it gets confusing when I have 2 or 3 entries for one individual. The semester before you plan to take the bar exam, maybe like a week or so before graduation, you will be assigned a TMSL bar coach. And those bar coaches are volunteers from the Office of Academic Success, from the Dean's Suite, sometimes professors volunteer. And right now we are looking into perhaps having certain distinguished alumni serve as bar coaches. And the bar coaches are not there to teach you doctrinal law, but they really are there to be a support person, to be an accountability coach, to make sure that you are keeping up with what you need to be doing. And also they are meant to be just kind of someone to help you troubleshoot. I don't know, one of the topics I end up talking about with a lot of the students I coach is like regulating your sleeping habits, because you slept late one day because you're tired, so you got a late start, so then you stayed up till 1 a.m. studying, so then you slept late the next day, and they get their days and nights all mixed up. By and large, what I have heard, or at least from everyone I've worked with, they're very pleased to have had a bar coach, someone to check in with, someone to touch base. It's just a supportive person and a smiling face. And depending on who is your bar coach, you guys set up the meetings how you want. It could be a phone call, it could be a Zoom, it could be in person. I tend to do all of my meetings in Zoom because your time is very valuable and you don't need to be driving back and forth to campus. I've mentioned it a couple times. The PSP includes a full day simulated MBE. Now, because everybody is on a different schedule, you're not all going to hit it at exactly the same day. So we aim to pick a day to host it on campus that will be approximately where we think most people will come to that assignment. We'll send out an RSVP link for that, so we just know how many people to expect. If you're going to come to the simulated MBE in your schedule, like a week before we host it on campus, just do it on your own. There's not a huge benefit to coming to campus and taking it with other people. It's just the simulated testing experience. But the bigger, more important thing is, do you know the material? You don't want to get off track from your PSP schedule. So there's a full day simulated MBE. And then there's a half day simulated writing exam. So instead of 2 MPTs and 6 essays, the half day writing exam is 1 MPT and 3 essays. That's not exactly how you do it on the bar exam, but it's 3 hours of written work. And we will also aim to host that on campus. We weren't able to do that this summer because the hurricane. We were without power and the building was shut. But we do aim to do those on campus. We know your plans change. You thought you were going to take in February, but you decided to take in July. You were planning to take it in July, but something happened and you think you're going to take it in February. Please, if that happens, let me know right away. You will need to change your enrollment with Barbary, and I can help you do that. When you get a Barbary course through us, not you all, but when anyone gets a Barbary course through TMSL, if, you know, something crazy happens and a person doesn't pass the first time through TMSL, you actually get 4 bites at the apple, if that's what it takes, but that's not going to be the case here. But if you tell Barbary that you're going to take the bar exam in February, but then you just up and decide to take it in July, and you don't make any changes with Barbary, you burn through one of your courses. And so just in the interest of not doing that, make sure you let me know if any of your plans change about when you plan to take the bar exam. There are steps you need to take. You could use up your PSP. Here's your Office of Academic Success team. This was taken at a conference a while ago before Professor Dye joined us, so we had to crop him in. But we're here to help. Any questions? There's a lot of information. Any questions? Yes. For the bar exam, the MBE is 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours, you take a lunch break and then 3 hours in the afternoon. Yes. You are not required to use it, but it's free. And anything else that you choose to use, you would need to buy on your own. Have strong feelings about Barbary, and not just because they're our institutional partners, but because of my own personal success that I had with them, but that was 100 years ago. But also, I think the research shows that they are the industry leader. So if you are considering buying something on your own, I would say let's have a one-on-one chat and just talk it through and make sure you're getting the option that's best for you. I want to help you, not talk you out of it, I promise. Anyone else? All right, so you will get lots of emails from us reminding you about your Barbary, oh, this is important. Did not add this to the slideshow. When at a certain point, you will need to go in. You have a choice of whether you want to order a hard copy of the books that come with your PSP, or if you come back up. Everybody with your bar course, you get an online digital bookshelf, and all the books that you need will be online in PDF form. Most people, and I strongly recommend, also choose to order the hard copy of the books. To get the hard copy of the books, you have to pay $280, but 250 of that is a refundable deposit. So it's a $30 shipping fee. You're never going to see that money again. $250 is the deposit. And if you send the books back at the end in any condition, marked up, torn up, whatever, if you send them back, they just don't want you reselling them on eBay or something, right? If you send them back, you get the $250 back. I strongly recommend that you order the books in hard copy. If for no other reason than the simulated MBE and the simulated MEE, there's lots of other reasons, but if for that reason alone is worth it, because you get this booklet that has all the questions and an answer sheet. And then it gives you the answers and explanations in order. Answer 1, answer 2, contracts, criminal, torts, property, whatever, in that order. But then in the back, it gives you all the contracts questions, answers and explanations, and all the civil procedure answers and explanations. And that is so valuable. You can print all that material out, but by the time you print it, it's a stack like this. It is unwieldy, it is unholy, and I don't recommend it. So get the books if it is at all within your ability to do that, but that is money you have to pay. TMSL does not cover that. And every year, people have their PSP held up from opening because they haven't taken action on the books. So you will need to, I think you might be able to do it now. You'll need to go into your Barbary account, find where you designate your shipping address, and enter the payment to order the books. And then your books will ship when the books are ready, and your PSP will open on time. Alternatively, if despite my advice, you choose not to order the books, that's fine, I won't be mad at you, but if you choose not to order the books, you need to take an active step to decline to order the books, and I think you can do it in your account, and if you can't do it in your account, you can email me and I'll tell you who to email to get that done. But you have to make a choice. You either have to enter the shipping information and the payment information to order the books, or you have to actively decline to order the books. And if you don't do one of those things, your PSP won't open up because it will be on hold waiting for you to make one of those steps. So when that gets a little closer, I'll send an email announcement out to the February bar takers. And then as it gets closer for July, I'll send an announcement out for July takers. But I did want to cover that you have to take a step, choice one way or the other. Otherwise your PSP won't open up. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yep. Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. That's a really good question. I'm going to repeat it because I know we have a lot of people online. So the question is, if you're taking the July bar exam, your course opens up March 15th. But I said I recommended to set your start date for the day after graduation. Let's call it May 15th. I don't know the exact date, but let's just say it's May 15th. Even if you tell Barbary and set your calendar that your start date is May 15th, from the day it opens, March 15th until May 15th, you are absolutely free to go into your PSP and start working on the assignments and start chipping away, completing those assignments. And all of that work will count towards your completion, will knock down those 380 hours. What happens if you do the other? If you set your start date for March 15th, but you are only able to dedicate, let's say, 2 hours a day because you're still in school, up until graduation, Barbary will think you're falling behind because it splits your time evenly. You can't tell it from March 15th to May 15th, I'm only going to do 2 hours a day. And then from May 15th on, I'm going to do 7 hours a day. It's just, it splits it evenly. So it makes a lot more sense once you're able to see your calendar. Bottom line, set your start date for the day after graduation. You are absolutely free to go in there, start working, start chipping away, completing those assignments, and it all counts towards your progress. But in that way, Barbary won't think you're behind. And I also think, just mentally for all of us, if you wake up every day, you've got a screaming red line showing you you're falling behind, it's not good for your mental game. And you have to keep your confidence and keep your focus. So by setting your start date for the day after graduation, that prevents that happening. Is a really good question. Any other questions? Professor Dye, anything to add? Okay, all right. Well, last pitch, please come talk to us one-on-one. If you have any questions that you don't feel like you want to ask here, you can send me an email. You can email Professor Dye, any of us in academic success. Thank you so much for coming in on a Friday, and thanks to everyone in the Zoom. Oh, wait, I wonder if there's questions online. I'm sorry. Oh, my goodness. I don't think she can hear us. Sorry, y'all. I don't know if this was the slide. All right. Thanks very much, everyone. I appreciate you. I'm going to turn off the recording.